Right, after tataura chirungu for like 20 minutes. Hey, can't drive a baiza, but that's okay. So you're talking about the time that you realize good, okay, in Indrimunwedoro. For lack of a better term.
Definitely, I think. But anyway, let's go.
So when did you realize, Kuti, you know what? A brother, that's not for me. You said for like 10 years, 8 years.
About 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. Plus
then, what had happened? But then, like, what had happened with opinion brother, with your brother? Right. What had happened to you know what? May I like we will allow.
I can't really recall the precise moment, but what I can remember is that, okay, so we would be renewing our commitments every year. Right. So prior to
renewing commitments, what of pledging allegiance?
Something exactly. So when you take what are called vows, you take them annually. So you promise to stay for a year at a time.
So more like resolutions.
Exactly, but they're basically vows. Right? So before you renew your vows, you go on a retreat. So that you do a lot of soul searching. You begin to understand yourself. You begin to understand your journey so far, and you assess whether you still want to carry on or not.
Introspection and whatnot.
Exactly. Pros and cons and things like that. So I remember, I think it was in 2005. During a retreat, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for me anymore. But then it was aided by quite a number of things. I think there was a time of isolation because I was living. It was just the two of us in the house, an Irishman and myself, an old Irishman.
Where was that?
In Plumtree, a place called Mbakwe. Right. So life wasn't making any sense in terms of kutindandri kure nema peers angu. And so take for example, okay, so during the day we would be teaching away at school and all, so that was okay. But then come, let's say, times of winding down, you have marked your books, you have done everything else, you want to relax and unwind. Whom do you go to?
You go to the Bible.
Yeah. It works and makes sense for a while, right? Yeah, it does actually. But I'm just talking about the social aspect.
The social aspect, yeah.
So the old gentleman that I was living with then, he was Irish, but he was a very, very sober man. Very.
Never tasted.
No, he had, and then he quit.
It wasn't for him.
Yeah, but I think he was tired of it.
What if he tired of it?
I mean, like, for years he had been, you know what they say about the Irish and alcohol.
Yeah.
So for years he had been at it and smoking as well, and then he just decided to quit. So he had this view of anyone who still drank would wakashata.
Yeah.
So that only made things worse. Then you begin kunoka wanda. Waiza kana kuti unotoenda kunonwa and then you try and hide kudhakwa kwako wadzoka padeni. Of which you unozviziva.
That's not for
zvakadhakwa. Kana wakadhakwa the more unoda kuwandisa kudhakwa kwako, the more you're going to
unotobato, yeah.
So, and then my social interactions would go like Kunana Plumtree, Blawayo, and then Vaskana came, that basically that was it. So it wasn't a once-off decision. It was cumulative. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after Tata Orashi says Kuti started alcohol, tried to be a brother. Then what? Women. Let's get into women.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most people they shy away from talking about because I had met someone.
Yeah.
Was that a case for you? Could you not wakati you've met a girl who caught your eye? Oh, but you know what? This thinking of me being a brother doesn't really cut it. I'd rather like enjoy her than enjoy the this.
Or enjoy her now, aren't it?
Yeah, enjoying her because
yeah, of course. I think quite frankly that was a very big part of it.
Yeah, you had met someone it was like a different story.
No, it was while I was still a brother, right?
Yeah.
There was a young lady I did Supper Primary in Tripa High School.
Yeah.
So basically I fell in love, yeah. And it's something that I wasn't prepared for in terms of, let's say, training actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother. There's a part in psychosexual development and you're kind of told you are going to fall in love, but then what to do with those feelings and all that kind of.
What do they tell you? Like,
you will fall in love.
And then what should you do about it?
There are quite a number of things that you can do. You can still decide. You can decide to go out, to live and get married.
Okay,
you can
decide that.
You can decide with, okay, talk about it openly. In my decision, they could have brother, so let's be friends.
Can you be friends with someone who you're falling for?
I don't know. I think that is a question for other people.
He was good.
But yeah, it was a major part of it.
Yeah.
I had fallen hopelessly in love. Let me put it that way. You know.
But what made you fall in love with this person, though? Like, if we look at it,
I think just because she was there. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, she was relatively my age, and because Apatatripa mission set up.
Yeah.
So there were older nuns that I could not talk to. You understand?
And
like to relate. Maybe and not fall for even. And the other brother on the Garana Yanga story of Dara was like,
menopause.
And yeah, so in terms of Mazera, even professionally, she was around about my age, and we would meet here and there, like, let's say, to my weekends or coming back Kubaku weekend. And then we would engage and talk.
Yeah.
So, you know, one thing kind of led to another, and I fell in love with it. But when I look at it,
yeah,
I think she fell in love with the brother.
With the idea, yeah.
Yeah, or the idea of me and it. And remember, which I wasn't attached to anyone then, except maybe God or the church and stuff. So I was available, like, really, and I would listen. I think with training, and that number one, I could really be in the moment now.
Yeah. Not
intimately as such then, but just physically be present.
Yeah.
The mental space.
Yes.
So that's what she fell in love with. And then when I left, the brothers, then she was like,
all right.
But it was a big part of it. Yeah.
So talking about that, let me backtrack a bit. And
sure.
Before Wainda Mukova like a brother, nigga, before you stepped into that world, if you had sex before, or it was with that person, because you having sex before or you having sex after plays a big part on the decision that you made.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I did sex well before. And quite on numerous occasions. No, I'm not saying with a lot of women. I said on numerous occasions.
I know. But then, which means, Kakuti, you know, Kuti, this thing feels nice.
Yeah, of course, that I knew, yeah.
Then you decided, Kuti, let me take a path of celibacy.
Yeah.
That was like next level type of commitment.
Yeah, certainly. It takes a lot. And let me just clarify on that one.
Yeah.
For quite a number of years, I stuck to my decision to be celibate. You know, when it's still relevant and you're saying, this is what I really want.
Yeah.
everything else kind of falls into place and your priorities change. I think you'll be on another level of consciousness even. So I saw that, you acknowledge your physical needs and all, but they stop to take center stage.
But then there's a point you go to you feel kuti panapa parakuda munhu apa. How do you handle that? Because
it's not easy, of course. It's okay. So
because do you know what? Sometimes being horny makes you feel like you're going crazy, like you're losing your mind.
I think I understand that. Yeah.
So there's frustration. I feel like if you are deprived of sex for a long time, Manika, especially after you've had sex, there's sexual frustration.
Yeah.
You go to Chiro, you're not yourself. So that's what I want to understand, Guti. If you're a brother, Nika, you've had sex before, you've decided I want to be celibate, I want to try this thing out. How do you handle it, Chagu? Because it gets real.
I think basically people have got different ways of coping. But they are what are called celibate substitutes. Or
okay, I've got a question.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to ask Kuti. Do
ask.
This is like a wild question. So if you masturbate,
right,
as a brother, is that wrong?
It is supposed to be wrong, yeah.
But then now no option.
You always have an option
to quit.
Either to leave kuve brother kwacho, or you can stop. You can
continue and
no, you can masturbate, but then you're not celibate. You get what I mean?
I
don't know. Maybe it works for some. People have got different coping mechanisms.
But then the rules I too. They say, do they still apply now? Because I feel like my father and my occasional they engage in sex now. I know it's part of fathers. I
wouldn't want to comment on that for now. So but then
what do you think?
But then I think the laws still apply.
And so you have to engage in sex. Well,
I wouldn't know.
I know. I once went out with a chick who was going out with a father. So
all right.
And then I was the side.
Oh, okay.
But then the main was, or maybe didn't want to main father side. But I knew about the father. My first days ago. Why don't she come father? Vadi, na father. You are not was supposed to pay.
It was very nice because I think quite a number of issues come to the fore there.
Yeah.
Because I know in the celibate communities, being alone or living alone is not really advised. And it plays a part in people acting out their sexual urges and things like that. So I was not almost always. I was always in community.
Okay.
So it was,
your mind is occupied.
Exactly. So what I was saying, Kuti, we were encouraged to play a lot of sports. So I saw that by the time you only go kunorara, you eat, usually kanokaneta, ukajika ukangonwa a bit of alcohol.
Yeah, you done.
So my mechanisms ekurarama that life akawanda.
Oh,
but we can use even my spiritual exercises mentally, cannot spiritually or emotionally, just okay, this is what I'm going through, walk through it and
go past that.
Yeah.
So
transcending, as it
transcendence.
Exactly.
If talk with that next level of,
Yeah.
So I've got a question. Let's move past that.
All right. Okay.
That whole thing. Is it Catholicism? Is that the correct term? Catholicism.
Yeah.
Is Christianity, is Catholicism Christianity, or they're different?
I think by and large, if you put it
would you say you're a
loosely,
Christian if you're a Catholic?
In the traditional sense of things, yes.
What in the non-traditional?
The non-traditional things would go to the very definition of what it means to be Catholic. Kuti Catholic just basically means universal.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you use the strict definition, it might mean something totally different.
Okay.
So so it's Roman
Catholic.
Yeah. So the Roman part being probably the Christian part, and the Catholic meaning the universal part. So the Catholic rite going global.
So Catholics are Christians. I
want to believe so, yes.
You want to believe so. So I had a discussion a few days back.
Right.
Or a few episodes back. Yeah. So I was talking about ATR.
Right.
That's African traditional religion, right?
Right.
And does it work hand in hand with other religions? Or us Africans are just trying to shy away from it and just neglecting it? Do you think they should work hand in hand? For example, ATR, we should consider ATR because we're Africans. We all have a background. You come from a family where you've got your father's got the father and whatever becomes ancestors and whatnot. And you have to acknowledge your ancestors. And I know Christians say if you do that, like engage in even in a tiny bit of ATR, you're doing the devil's work. What do you think about that? How they are villainizing ATR?
I think that is a very important area. I think, for starters, I think there are as many definitions of Christianity as there are people out there.
Yeah.
My take on Christianity, I think, is markedly different.
So someone said Christianity is not a religion.
It's a way of life to some.
Yeah, someone said it's a relationship with God. Then I argued that if you are saying it's a relationship with God, then ATR is a relationship with a higher power as well.
Yeah, certainly.
So it's like different ways to reach a certain destination, the same destination.
I think, let me just go back a bit to what I think should be this is just me, right?
Yeah.
My take on Christianity and African traditional religion.
Yeah.
And for starters, I also disagree with the whole term African traditional religion. I mean, there's something I find very unsettling about it. But anyway, I want to believe that I'm an African first.
Before anything else.
Before I become Christian.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then if I were to go to the theological side of it, Jesus was born in a certain culture, just like I was born into a certain culture. The notion that Jesus was everything and everywhere is another perspective, I think. The one that I do not agree with.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Exactly. I think Jesus was a Jew.
He was.
Exactly. So he subscribed to Jewish patriarchy and the ancestors, his own ancestors, Israel, as in Jacob and the 12 tribes and Ephraim and them. So how then you come to me and vilify my own religion whilst saying I should also adopt yours? That doesn't make sense to me.
I was watching Joshua Maponga.
I've heard of him. Yeah,
I was watching Joshua Maponga, and he said, you say you don't worship religions, or you shouldn't adhere to what your ancestors are teaching you, right? But then Jesus is someone else's ancestor.
Yes,
certainly. And you're praising someone else's ancestor instead of looking at, kuti is a fidza mwana wa ningi mwana wa ningi. You can trace, it's something that you can trace.
Yeah,
andika
a genealogy, as it were.
Yeah. And you don't want that. You are vilifying that over saying kuti let me go and worship kune this new religion, of which if we look at it, dating back in Africa, it dates back maybe 1680. 80 is it after?
Yeah. The BC, 1600.
Right. And after the death of Christ. That is before Christianity. What were we?
Exactly.
That's the question.
You see, exactly. So I think basically, I think one of the uncomfortable truths that we as Africans have to face is that we've been brainwashed.
We've been brainwashed, yeah?
And we are being brainwashed, as it were.
And I feel like the majority of people are colonized in the mind, but they don't want to admit, they do not want to admit, Kuti, I'm colonized in the mind. For example, we look at, not to go way back, we look at in the 70s.
Right.
And people would wear, like it would have been like obscene to be seen wakapfeka miniskirt or kupfeka matight and but now it's become so normal.
Yeah.
I once watched a video kuti there was tongoti sekuru and vakagara sezvatakaita setapetakagara mune vana vasikana and those girls vanga vangopfeka like those short matight zvekumhanyisa zvezvi nemabrachet. I was like, yo, times have changed.
Yeah.
Someone akazvarwa umauya akangomuka one day akangopinda muno munyika, they would be surprised kuti okay, what's going on in this world?
Yeah.
It's something that we really need to look at and nyatso figure out kuti what are the ways that we can deal with. Let's take an ad break.
Sure.
So just a word of advice to someone who's watching, whether you're depressed or you're thinking of suicide, know that it's not the end. Like it's never give up. That's my chat. Never give up. The darkness that you're seeing right now or the depression that you have right now, it shall come to pass. And you just say, you see?
Yeah.
So suicide is never an option.
It's never.
We are fighting against suicide.
Yeah.
No matter what happens to you, try not to.
Rather sit on your mercy.
Sit on your mess.
Yeah, sit on your mercy.
And talk to someone.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Kuti zvifai.
You see? Plus, amongst the friends, pane mumwe munhu waunoziva kuti no, that guy munhu wokuti ndikaenda nemashoko angu ka anoagamuchira wachengeta onipawo advice yakadii. Vanhu what they don't like most is ndikauya ndikakuudza nyaya inchiziva kuti iwe uri chihwerure.
Right. Ping is in the house. I'm going to background like it, but he's in the house. I was not in the room discussion. All right. So we're talking about how people are colonized to adopt someone else's religion and how times have changed. Andika, look at now, Kuti, they are legalizing LGBTIQ, XYZ, B, A, C, D, what? Andika.
HDTV,
HDTV cable.
Minus.
Oh, like because of it's because of television and you are the narrative is pushed Maori and pushwa Maori. Do you know for example nika ukona munhu akapfeka like a short dress and the first time unochiona unoti munhu yakaita sei, then the second time it becomes easier also pesa kuti aiwa zvangu izvi ndo zvakaitika pareligion. Pakatanga kusvika handi painzi vasina mabvi, we all know about that from history,
right?
Painzi vasina mabvi vaishamisika, then vasina mabvi vaya vakatanga kupusha a certain narrative vachiramba vachicontinue until akutsotsa brain, and now you are shying away from what makes you your true religion, in what you should like uphold and uplift. Honor.
I think just to weigh in on that, pane the let's say the Shona theologians or philosophers vakazama kugadzira a model yekuda kuti religion netsika nemagariro edu semashona, let me put it that way, zvive some kind of interlink or marriage basically vaiti inculturation, right? But for some reason or other it refused to take off. For example, the main tenets were kuti instead of using wine kunamata, let's say last supper ya Jesu or commemoration of it, why not choose 7 days cannot maheo cannot something like that. Get what I mean? Instead of kusenzesa chihost chitukutuku which I find it very difficult to believe kuti icho pachacho chingwa, then later alone kuzoti kwanzi muviri wa Kristo, that is another issue altogether.
Kutoti muviri wa Kristo iflower.
And it was wrong. Kokusenzesa sadza rezviyo kana kuti sadza chairo, because it was supposed to be a meal and it, but then isu sema-Africans all of a sudden takufana kutora the idea kuti it has to be wine and it has to be unleavened bread and the whitest and the most purified wheat.
But do you think kuti food in a significance in religion?
Certainly, I think so. And it about okay. Tukutaura religion imwechete kana kuti dzakasiyana. But
you can pick one and we'll go on that.
So regret mboti last supper ku Christianity, for example. It was a meal. Vanhu vaidya veve nekunwa.
Of which we look kudya nekunwa ka. Even in our Shona culture, there's a tsumenonji proverb.
Proverb,
There's a proverb inoti
ukama igasha. Unozadziwa nekudya kana nekunwa.
All like
right. So even paitwa mabira kana kuti panodyiwa panobikwa something zvine significance yekuunganidza a community and showing oneness. Even mumuri chaimo meal times are kind of holy and sacrosanct. Isusu inene ndichikura inene tatisingadyi muplate 1-1. Taidya tose plate yesadza apa, plate yemuriwo apa idyai anditwa. So it ukaita zvinhu zvisina kunyatzorurama ipapo waigona kungopiwa ziso toziva kuti mawanangu atanga
zvashata
later on anditwa. So but then just going back to the question religion and significance ye food, I think inogona kutobata even the very essence yekurarama kuti susu tikwanise kudya, we have to revere the land which produces what we eat.
Kind of reminds me of Maponga, because he talked about the land, the significance of the land, kuti how you should what's kukoshesa, for lack of a better term, kukoshesa nechirungu. No, kukoshesa usu utilize.
You could say revere even.
Yeah, you have to revere the land, because the more you take care of the land, the more you can ensure that life keeps going on.
Exactly.
I
was just listening the other time, some years back, on Tabo Mbeki, and he was talking about
beetroot.
No. No, he was actually talking about how Zimbabweans have a different relationship to the land than South Africans. So he gave the example of Zimbabwean teachers. I don't know if the mathematics cannot. I don't know if they are still there now. In a place called Malmesbury. So there was a farmer, I presume a white farmer. I remember maybe my grapes or whatever it is. I remember. So this person had obviously used a lot of synthetic fertilizers. And according to their soil testing, the land had lost its value or its fertility.
And it does.
And it was wrong. Oh, yeah, you would do agriculture.
Agric economics to be specific and development.
Right. But then according to Thabo Mbeki now, some Zimbabwean teachers then came along. Toko vatanga kufeed this land ne organic fertilizers. Vatanga kutorima cabbages and made a success story out of it. So he was talking about one person who has abandoned the land and what feeds him, it's now useless. And another one are good.
Land.
So that kind of relationship that even it then informs you good the way we look at religion or land as Africans should relatively be different from the way white people look at it, or commercial farmers, I wouldn't know.
So, because like, let's Timboita move away from religion a bit.
Right.
Do you think colonization was bad from your own point of view?
I think that is a very
contextual.
Yeah, it is a contextual question. From which perspective? It was good and bad.
Okay, how was it bad from your point of view?
Okay, so I think just for continuity's sake, the brainwashing of the African psyche to accept everything white as good and to look at everything black as evil. So that in its own.
But don't you think Kuti, it's not even from the whites?
You also learned commercial farming.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was. Exactly. I was.
No, before you
I was focusing on the negatives.
Before you go to that, Aniga, I don't think Kuti, it's a white man's problem, Aniga. Let me be the devil's advocate here.
Right.
Aniga. Everything white is good and everything black is bad. Black, come out ikala. No, in terms of even Rima is bad. Rima is
Rima black? That conception
darkness.
Of color. Okay, thank you very much.
Darkness is black. Pitch black afro.
That's white people telling you that you are black. And I don't. Ukanzibata munumtema unobata inini yo.
Iwo Mukarati.
But then the generic term ya tongo piwa tese and it.
It's because of
is what black. Aywa. But then I want to distinguish on that one.
No, you mean mamudu kuzita melanin.
It's not that Rikuti, I am denouncing and denying the label because black no moon.
Okay.
If I were to give myself, look at the American Revolution, for example, because if they call each other Negro bo. Ngapa ite mrungu anomutiwe niga uone.
Vakarambira.
And it will
because of the trauma ya
and then inini manjo don't use ndichimuti white. Nyatso not as white, pink or some other color.
All right, so we're talking about colonization.
All right, okay.
Talking about how we can say kuti my pros and cons.
Yeah.
First, let's go back to religion. Because it's part of the colonization.
Yeah.
Because as most African countries were colonized through religion. Religion teaches you bo. But then pa teach you bo. Obviously there is a bit of kakujuto kamunoitwa imomo. Munonzina matime akatsinzina. There was a joke andakambonzwa. And the reason why mchinzi vanina matime akatsinzina. Kuti makatsinzina vanhu vachibauka.
Yeah.
Vachivhepesa zviro.
You wake up, when you woke up, you had the Bible in your hands and they had the land.
Then my teachings are very good, like my commandments.
But
those are like for the betterment of the world.
Just to weigh in on that one. I think the commandments have always been there. Like even if you, which one were we taught out of the 10? Or let me rephrase my question. Which particular one do you think did not exist in the African moral setup yakawi is never wrong to your consciousness?
They didn't come out the way my commandments bakabuda akaita. The commandments said kuti thou shalt not. I
may know yet thou way, but all right,
alright, I'll believe in thou.
I may know thou or good out. You don't tonga cannot
thou
feel
good usa.
All right, okay, yeah, all right.
Andiga.
Yeah, I know. I was just.
Of course, in other religions, kuraya kuribed because ningo wa konzerisa pain kuna mwana nigga. But now usa do it, but then at your own risk. Ngozi jazokubata.
Just to be a bit philosophical about it. Kune atingati extrajudicial killings. Kune kuraya kuri legal. Kweta kuraya kuri illegal.
as per whose standards.
Ndio zvandiri kuda kutaura kasaka izvo zvekuti kwanzi varungu vakaenda bhaibheri vachitaura kuti hapana kana one commandment out of the 10 yatatagara tisina. Asi pakazouya izvo zvekuti kwanzi Jesu ndimwari, wakuda kundiudza zvekuti Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, ipapapo. Yeah, otherwise it existed kudhara.
We had already the collective Gumire Mtemo.
Right.
But it wasn't Gumire Mtemo, we had more than Gumire Mtemo zvataichengeta isusu. But ivo vakazoya vakazviti Gumire Mtemo. But isusu, it was a white thing.
Yeah. I'm in agreement there.
So Gumire Mtemo is a white thing.
It's a white thing.
In terms of their classification and the numbering, but kugara iriko yanga yagara yachingoveko zvakangofanana nekuti something is written down kana kuti what history yedu isusu just because some white guy like vana DNP vakazoya vakainyora hazvoti yanga isiko.
John Wisu
we wisiri
andika so my whole chat andika irufana ita dead back to the point that I'm always stressing out kuti should one religion consider itself supreme over other religions, or unofana ngoti if you are Islam it's clean, do what you do. Andika if you are a Christian it's clean, do what you do, don't judge me, let me do what I'm doing.
I think
you look out for yourself, because at the end of the day after life we don't know. Particularly in Africa
we should follow our traditional religions.
But then do you think because that's why people are now vilifying my religion, especially Christians. Ma Muslim anoonekwa senge ameno zvimwe zvinhu.
I think kuti if we go back to the probably one of the first few statements of this program, you mentioned kuti tinem Romanas. Then I'm like, I've got a bit of a
that's
concern.
An identity in Zimbabwe to identify munhu ne religion.
Kana kuti nemota kuti haumuzive regisha we out.
Exactly. Ona for example for example mpostora akasvika palapa. The best way kumdescribe atiti uyo mudhara uyo akadai so not uchi uyo akadressa sempostori or uyo mpostori uyo. Ona for example moti mpostori why hana zita here mpostori uyo not mpostori. Ona that's why that it's because of like the society that we live in. Those don't go address in that.
All right, but now a superiority of one religion over the other, it also goes to whoever is paying the piper calls the tune. Saka isusu sevanhu vakabatirwa pfuti to some extent kukanzi gamuchira Jesu gamuchira Jesu semuponesi wako tinobva tatongoona sanike aiwa ndo religion iri superior because ndo zvatakatongokura tichifidhiwa, but then it's time to debunk that kind of system and that kind of thinking. I
feel like this generation yatiri right now, you guys are lucky. You the generation was renyu.
And this was all right.
What andika. You are lucky to have lived in our generation because Susu are the woke generation who looks at things blindly. It has to make sense fully before
and this was even in
the majority
okay, I'm just using that figuratively. Despite all the indications Zekuti, we are having a lot of false prophets in Zimbabwe in particular, vanema spiritual fathers ku Nigeria and varikuwanda, and despite overwhelming evidence yekuti never come vari kuri kuwanda vakomana vegeneration yenyu nevasikana vegeneration yenyu, saka moreve kana muchiti it has to make sense. What makes sense?
We are the woke generation.
Vana papa nema prophets.
We are the woke generation wakaona kuti religion ka sometimes Christianity, people are gullible.
Yeah.
Andika Christianity takatoiona kuti no, this has been a business since a span. Saka why not start your own business since Honor.
All right, okay.
There's a lot of pastors, I shall not mention no names.
Yeah, of course.
They could, people who know them. Vanotoziva kuti apa parikurohwa high stuff.
Yeah.
Religion is a business.
Religion is a business. It's a money getting business without tax.
Sange mazana ikwana vakumana mawandiraita maprophets aka. Mamwe acho indongoona sange inongori money making scheme. Because okay, take for example, ngatidzokere kumaRoma. And I've seen maRoma who took but vovakasvikoro vakamahospital. Mamwe timuri ndiri kuona iri kungokutengesera bengo zvapera.
Zvatoenda.
Saka ndisi kuziva kuti
so ndanichiti so vanhu vakazo I feel like people are woke. They now see kuti religion tikanyatsoitarisisa it's a way of controlling someone. Kuti asazove barbaric, asazoita zvinhu zviri zvisina musoro. In terms of course religion is good because inokuitai kuti zvava nerule of law. The rule of law is good because inoziva kuti there are consequences. Ugoraya munhu unoziva kuti chero chizonopinda mugehena espe religion unopinda mujeri pano pasi, and that's practical. Ukauraya unopinda mujeri.
Inini munhu anorepa mwana wangu musikana ndikamuuraya ndifunga kundoenda kugehena kana kuti
kugehena because thou shall not kill. Iri kuapply, it's not pick and choose.
Aiwa. Oh, saka izvo zvakatonyorwa in stone
kuti thou shall not kill
kuti ndambotaura kuti all right, so izvo zviri mubhaibheri handiti but mubhaibheri macho ukaverenga munana Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, there are certain conditions that were given to the Israelites kuti you may kill provided certain conditions are met. So inini semuZimbabwe semushona indiri kutaurawo kuti iwowo ukauya ukamanikidza mwana wangu zveshuwa ndikazivawo kuti anga asingadi.
Do you know that there are some cultures which believe in eye for an eye. Ukarepa repiwawo. Saka it's only fair kana kuti ukarepegwa munhu ka murepewo buli.
Ayo munhu wacho.
Kuti adzidze. Because the amount of pain you're only going to inflict on someone. Receive the amount of pain.
We are trying to run away from committing a sin.
So
we cannot say if your daughter is raped, you have to rape someone.
Lati repa hiye. Kala repa wala wake. Kuti adzidze. Because we are now trying to, because the amount of pain that I felt, Anika, you have no idea what the pain yakamira say.
But guys, ndapani panaenda kubvunza. Pamamitaura nyaya dzemachechi, mapasta whatever. Vana machechi rekati maministries. Machechi ro maministries.
Ministry.
I don't deny the fact that they operate churches in Zimbabwe.
So it's a ministry.
It's a ministry.
Those are churches. What ministries? I wouldn't. Papa Nance.
I think kuti ina maonero angu pama ministries nema church. I think kungosenzesa jargon yekuwanda. Now iripo ndekuti okay, let's say vanogona ngoti foundation foot. Mugona ngoti trust, not kana kuti pyramid scheme. Not zvi because in as far as religion that I understand goes, kana kuri kuti utaura zvawo ngachiti maponga ndeti. Aitaura kuti one of the things that he strongly believes in biblically ndezvekuti priests are the ones who run my church, not prophets. Prophets mainly biblically they wouldn't be wearing suits and nekufamba nemagadi neneirari team right kugona kugara musango achidya uchi.
It's only business people.
Anditiri
kufamba nemabodyguard.
Ipapo pane chitaura panyaya yemaministries nemachurches anditi. Panobva futi nyaya yekuti munhu ari kurana eministry haashandisi zita rake chairo chairo. Anoshandisa zita rekuti kana kuti Chitanda, prophet Chitanda.
Okay. I remember you said one time, Andika, what he anoshandisa prophet Chitanda. What do you mean? I know you're on the question.
Like you know the reason, and
yeah.
Can I go for a church? You are the reason. What is prophet Chitanda?
Is the name, girl?
No.
Is there basa? Can I use there office?
I didn't know that. All right. Since which is can you answer?
I cannot say I know. But I can relate to what he's saying.
How do you relate?
Yeah,
Kuti. Is that what was it?
I can relate pakuti. This office this ministry this church is not yours per se.
It's a business. Because the definition of a business, because business is separate entity from Javana to get a CEO and business it's a separate entity.
But business one already a juristic person.
Mm-hmm.
That business can be tried and punished regardless.
It's a separate entity.
But
so a church is like a business. It's a separate entity.
But in the proper sense, even in the proper sense, that you get what I mean?
Yeah, I think it should be just Christian church to represent kuti you are Christians. Joshua Ministries, Ping Ministries, Fidza Ministries, honor, because now I didn't answer make a sense, but.
And then my biggest concern, just going back to the issue that you had brought up, kuti imi isusu generation yedu 40 something, and you said we are fortunate to have lived in your generation as well. I'm presuming you mean kuti somehow or other it's either isusu we are a bridge between an older version of religious understanding and an earlier one or a later one, but chandoda kubvunzisisa ndechoti we have seen the numbers of vanhu vari kuenda kumachurches kana kuti maministry aya atiri kuona tose kuti apa pari kurohwa mari apa but manumbers acho ari kukura especially negeneration yenyu
chinzwa
vachitobhilivha zveshowa kuti uyu munhu uyu ari kutaura zvinhu zvaatumwa naMwari, iye akapfeka sutu achifamba nemagadhi. Izvo handizvinzwisisi.
Let me answer that, Anika. Why that you are fortunate to have lived in our generation, Anika? Imimi maiona mahaisa ichiitika, but you never said anything about it. Isusu were the generation to question everything, Anika. Then we live by the mantra of if you can't beat them, join them. Takato not, you know what? If heaven is here on earth, Anika, better to Roma, I see.
All right.
Sakandosa katichiwandira ikoko.
They are the reading generation. Once you write something down and they read, they believe that.
No, we don't believe it. That's why we question. Hakuna a believer, no. That's why michinzi muri why. Those are even Bible why because why he follower. This is were not the why generation.
If you go back, get the great foot kwewe. In the tower, kune mama analogies.
Ora dimakashedza kuti why kuvarini muchingobvunzwa why.
Aindanzga bvuvi. Vamwana indaramba.
Imagine right now in our generation ukatuka kuti why ndoletsala lewe. But if I go to why Boro why yawa.
Indaramba wanu kuti izvo zvekunzi why zvekunzi black okay. And I know there are a lot of minds my age and slightly older who have always been questioning these things,
but then they didn't voice it out.
Yes, probably it was also about the time and consciousness not being right, because I believe there are some things which only reveal themselves through time. Regardless of my efforts, because look at Munagaita Sange Dambuzo Marichera, for example. He
was way ahead of his generation.
But at the end of the day, the crux of the matter is he was considered a loony guy. Like I to penga Dr. Penga kwacho. Saka izvozvi ukada kutaura zvemahaista yari kurohwa nana man of God vakawanda. Unogona kuto either unopenga kana kuti kobva kwanzi touch not the anointed what
that was the mechanism yakagadzirwa kuprotecta kuti ukada kuzvibata kuti pari kurohwa haisi unonzi iwe don't touch the highlighted because I feel like religion sometimes inoshandisa fear as a tool.
Agree.
Fear of going to hell, fear of kunzi ukaita chakati wave mutadzi.
You remember some people vanogona nyatsotaura kana kuanalyze vachiti religion and politics work relatively in the same way.
They do.
Paguti, so ku politics, and I'm pretty sure in religion as well, there is a social contract.
Yeah.
So where you give up part of your rights for the protection of one estate.
Yeah.
I think the relative principle applies to religion.
Yeah.
You give up some kind of your freedom or consciousness or thinking or logic.
You know, I once said like an argument, Andika, this girl that I'm seeing, Andika. We're talking about religion. Then the right mistake in the you are colonized.
The same girl were dating a priest or
no, that was way back.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I got it. So Nagaita probably like you are colonized. I was quiz a reason into like the discussion that we're having. Into you are colonized because you don't want to look at other options. Are these people right or not? The Christian way is the correct way. Everything else, honor. So so religion in my ways zero because I feel like munakatanga that whole thing of religion. That person is a genius.
I want to agree. Yeah.
Probably is a time traveler as well. Because how can you write something chakuti? It's still relevant.
I think,
and it still instills fear more. It still controls the world up to now. Honor. So
I want to believe that there's something very flawed in the Christian establishment or in the Christian way of depending their arguments.
Yeah.
For example, you cannot use the Bible to justify Christianity, or I don't think it is clever to use the Quran to justify Islam, or to use the Torah to justify Judaism. Exactly. Papa chopokuti inini ndo nyeperwa ne best friend yangu. Then kusera mangwana ndo nobvunza mudzimai wacho. You know, so this nonsense yekuti God exists nokuti zvakanyorwa muBible. I mean, my guy, as an African or as any straight thinking human being, you should be able to question such precepts. Really, there should certainly be other ways of advocating or reasoning for or against the existence of God outside the parameters of the Bible or any other written book. Someone
once said, Kutanzi, faith is believing in something chausiri sure could exist. Having faith, I have faith kuti fire. You're not sure to share it. It's like a gamble. Faith is like a gamble, isn't it? Honor. So let's close it up. Ooh, thank you for that.